Okay, let's get started. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Today we are talking about workflow in your accounting practice using cloud-based systems. As we touch on some of the components of workflow, you'll see me jump in and out of Aero Workflow app so you can get a look at what workflow management looks like when you're using Aero and what the newest version of Aero looks like. Whether you're performing the work yourself or delegating the work to staff, managing workflow for your practice is critical. And we'll explore some of the common pain points related to managing staff, clients, time, and the performance of your firm. I'll introduce myself. My name is Laura Redman. I am a Pro Advisor, QuickBooks Pro Advisor. I am part of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network. I co-authored the QuickBooks Online certification and the recent Advanced QuickBooks Online certification. And I have an outsourced accounting firm called Redman Accounting Inc. All of our clients are on QBO. We're totally web-based. And I'm also co-founder of Cloud Consultancy, which created Aero Workflow app, and also the Slate Cloud Accounting Program for accounting firms. So we all hear the word workflow used a lot. For example, an app may tell you about their workflow when they're referring to the steps involved in using their program, and that's appropriate. As accounting professionals, we use lots of apps. Oftentimes we're using them together to perform our work. And our workflow is the combination of all of the steps involved in the individual apps and in integrating the apps together, and also in doing some of the work that may not even involve an app. So workflow, basic word workflow, is a defined sequence of tasks that is both planned and repeatable. It's the transformation of resources like your staff or your computers or your programs into services that you sell to your clients. Workflow management is a system to organize the setup, performance, and tracking of all of the work. Let's explore this from the perspective of an accounting firm. Accountants perform services for their clients, right? Such as paying bills. These services are a series of tasks. You have to enter the bill, someone has to approve the bill, someone has to pay the bill. Each accounting firm has its particular method of accomplishing these tasks. Who does what, using what tools or what software. Each task is a series of steps. Many of these tasks are similar in nature from client to client, like paying bills. But sometimes the work we perform varies based on the client, like creating customer invoices for your client's customers, or paying your client's staff, payroll. For example, you may process payroll for one client that has hourly staff with overtime pay. Yet for another client, they may have salaried staff and they may have health benefits. Documenting these tasks helps your staff perform their work consistently and efficiently, especially when the work isn't performed often enough to be remembered the next time it's performed, like a quarterly payroll in a state you're not that familiar with, or when you're training new staff and they don't have it memorized how to do everything yet, or when there's a special set of instructions to perform for a particular client, like you may prepare invoices for one of your clients for their customers based on billable time and expenses. Yet you may prepare invoices for another one of your clients for their customers based on fixed fees or some milestones achieved. So you need to have some instruction on how to do it when you jump from performing one of those tasks to the other. Defining this work and scheduling it at the proper recurrence interval creates a workflow management system, whether that be a paper checklist, an Excel spreadsheet, or a workflow app like Aero. Practice management is a system to organize the workflow from the perspective of the firm, tracking all the work, client information, employee time, outstanding projects, documentation, and then analyzing all the resulting information. Why is practice management important? regardless of the size of your firm? Well, so you can manage your firm and your client expectations realistically, so you can have a bird's eye view of all of the work that needs to be done on a given day. So you can measure the workload associated with a fixed fee engagement. So you can handle scope creep. So you can grow your firm and perhaps sell it one day. So you can have a life. Otherwise, you may spend your day responding to emails and dealing with things that may not be the most important. You may miss deadlines or stay up to 1 a.m. to meet them. You may lay awake worrying that client matters like payroll or sales tax filings might slip through the cracks. Let's take a look at Aero's management dashboard to see an overview of a firm's scheduled work. So here's a look at Aero. We're on the Manage dashboard screen. This gives you a real bird's eye view here on the screen to give you an overview of what's happening in your firm right now. And it gives you the ability to quickly drill down further into specific information. For example, you may want to see information on these 3 overdue items. So I'll just click it and drill down, and now I'll see a list of the 3 tasks that are overdue. You may want to assign this to someone else, work on what resources you need to get this work done to help solve a roadblock. Maybe you want to drill into this task to find out more about why it's deferred. Next, I'm going to navigate over to the Manage Aero screen. The heart of Aero Workflow is the way you can break your firm's work down into arrows. Now, an arrow is an activity, like a task, an email, an appointment, even a thought, that tracks time associated to the work you're doing and also provides resources to complete the work consistently and effectively. From this Manage Aero screen, I can group it by user. You can quickly see how much work is assigned to staff members. Here it is grouped by my staff members. I've got a subtotal of the hours. I can group it by company. I can see how much work is scheduled for each of the clients. This allows you to address an issue before it becomes a problem. You can see current and future work easily. That makes it easy to allocate your firm's resources ahead of time, to plan for the work. Now I'm going to navigate to the Manage Time screen. Similarly, whereas the last screen was showing us all the scheduled work that's set to be performed, this is showing us all of the time that's been posted. I can look at my time by user. Let's look at it for this week. While your staff are doing their work, Aero is tracking the time associated with the work. For those of you who are paying hourly staff, they don't have to punch a time clock in and out. Their time is automatically recorded as they work. I can look at the time by company. Since Aero tracks the time associated to the work, you're able to view the staff resources allocated to your clients. If someone is doing a lot of non-billable work for a billable client, you can see that. For those of you billing your clients hourly, Aero captures all the time associated to the work that's performed. For those of you using QBO, these time tracking entries are pushed to QBO so you can pull them onto an invoice. For those of you billing fixed fee, this helps you watch for scope creep. As you create your workflow management system for your firm, make sure that your system is easy to maintain. Again, whether you're using a checklist, a spreadsheet, or a workflow app like Aero, here are some things to consider. How do tasks get on your to-do list? How easy is it to manage the various recurring schedules of different tasks? Where is the workflow system stored? How do staff access it? What happens when multiple people access it or update it at the same time? How do you know which tasks have top priority? What should you work on first? Your system should have a way for management to view complete and incomplete tasks. In addition, make sure that your workflow system is secure because it will most likely need to store sensitive data. Let's look at how Aero manages the services performed by the firm and then scheduling these services with clients and staff. Okay, here we are back in Aero. Let's look at how Aero manages the services you provide. I'm going to the Manage Aero Template screen now, and I'm going to pick one of the service templates. This is one of the services this firm provides. I can create a template, and I can enter some information about this type of work that the firm provides. Maybe I'm going to say it's the type payroll, and that one of my bookkeeper roles will be performing this work. I can put some notes about it if I like. And then I define every step. And I can add links, anything I can think of to help them get the work done effectively. You can turn these templates into recurring scheduled arrows for your staff. Let's go look at the same service, payroll, using Intuit Online Payroll. Once you've set up the template, you turn it into an arrow that you assign to the staff who's going to do it regularly and the company that you're going to perform this work for. You can mark it billable or fixed fee. You can change something about the steps if there's going to be something that you're going to do a little different for this customer. And then you're going to go set the appropriate recurring interval. And at that interval, Aero's going to set that up for the company and the staff person that you assigned it to, and it's going to show up on their list of work to do on those days, like clockwork. A good workflow management system gives you and your staff the resources you need to complete the task. Let's talk about some examples of what I mean by resources. I'm talking about, for example, step-by-step instructions to complete the task so that the work is completed effectively and consistently every time. For example, let's say the task is payroll. You want to remind staff to verify the hours are approved by the supervisor, perhaps. If that's the set of steps for this particular client, you may need to remind them to do it. You might want to remind them to check whether there was a holiday in the pay period. You might want to remind them to check whether any employees submitted requests for vacation pay. Give them the exact steps that they need to do every time. You also want to give them web links to access the procedure guide. The procedure guide has the exact instructions with print screens and training videos on how to perform any of the services you provide. It's more in-depth than the step-by-step checklist. These may be links to the training videos for the software apps you use, or these may be links to very specific instructions on how to prepare invoices for one of your client's customers, for example. Also, if you can, give them a web link on the step to the website where they're going to go perform the work. If they're going to go pay bills in bill.com, give them a link to bill.com. You also want to give them passwords and security answers and information that they're going to need to complete that work. But wait, there's more. Here are some more resources that are helpful when you're designing a workflow system for your firm. You want some way for staff to give feedback on how the task was performed and maybe any difficulties that were encountered. So some place for internal comments. Keep in mind that you've got this option if you're pushing your time into QBO, you've got this option of putting notes about the work you did on the time tracking notes, but you may also want a separate area for internal comments that may not be pulled onto an invoice. You also want the ability to reassign a task to another team member when somebody's out on vacation or somebody calls in sick. You want to give your staff a list of any of the contacts related to the client that they may need to reach out to in their day-to-day work. Maybe it's the insurance agent for your client, or their banker, or their management team, or their legal team. You want to give your staff templates and automated methods performing some of the common activities or some of the emails that you send regularly, such as a request for a W-9 from a vendor. Also, try to give your staff access to the log of activities for that client so that when they're working on that client, they can see emails that other members of your team have sent to and from the client and other work that's scheduled for them so that they know something is being handled already. You also want to give your staff access to client information, such as their tax ID number, what their capitalization threshold is, what version of the accounting software on. And just as importantly, can you block access to staff members who don't need to access every client's sensitive information? So if you can use different security levels for different staff, you may have an intern working for you for the summer that doesn't need to see all the banking login information. So let's jump into Aero and see what it looks like from the staff's point of view performing the work. I'm going to navigate now over to My Arrows. So here you can see the list of work scheduled for today for the person logged in. I can see that I have tasks here. I have appointments. I have emails. This is all the work I need to do today. So I'll accept my task called payroll using Intuit Online Payroll. Let's go do some payroll. So when I accept the task, here you can see that when your staff is performing their work, they're going to have step-by-step instructions. They have links to the procedure, the documented full procedure guide on how to do this work with print screens. You can give them a link to Intuit Online Payroll, perhaps, to go do the payroll. You could give them a link to Intuit's help site for payroll. Any of the resources you can think of that are web links to give them, you can put those here. Here is an internal comments area. So you'll see here that there are two. As I check off each of my steps, you'll see that they're showing down below. This is the work I did while I was in here performing this task. This comment section is something that will not go through to QBO, potentially onto a customer's invoice. These are internal comments here. I'm going to scroll down now to the bottom part of the screen and show you that there are some more resources down below. I've got client information here. I can see the accounting software that my client uses. I've got company arrows. These are all of the other tasks and meetings and emails associated to this customer. I can view those, who they're assigned to, whether they're completed or not. I have a lot of options here to filter and look for particular ones on particular dates or particular status. I've got all the contacts here at my fingertips for this customer. So if I need to reach out to someone, I have the information here. I can see all the time that's been logged on this task. And finally, I've got my vault. So here I can see the passwords, the secured information. If I don't have the right security level, I won't be able to see that. And notice that all along when I came in to work on this task, it's tracking my time on it. So that's important to capture the time. I'm going to save and defer this task for later. Maybe I'm waiting for the client to reply. This takes me back to my list of arrows. This one that we just worked on is still here because I did not mark it as completed. I wanted to show you that in addition to accepting the task and working on it like we just did, I also have the option here to go edit the work. Maybe I am called away for the day and I need to reassign this task. I can click on it and go into edit mode. Maybe I want to reassign it to someone else, or I need to push it to another date, or something about it I need to edit. I can do that, save and close, and be back out at my list. So we all have a list, a mile long, I'm sure, of things to do, right? It may be in your head, it's in your email inbox, it's on Post-it notes on your desk, even if it's neatly and perfectly organized in a workflow management system like Aero. You may plan to come into work in the morning and work on your to-do list, but the phone calls come in and the emails arrive, and this is a good thing. We want new work, but you will have interruptions and you have to plan for how you're going to handle them. So perhaps your policy is to only work on everything that's scheduled as of the end of day yesterday, and any new emails or phone calls are replied to the following day. Or maybe you have a system that allows you to pause the work you're doing, take a phone call and record all of its details, and then pick up right where you left off before the call. Or maybe you have support staff in place to handle emergencies so you don't have to be interrupted at all. Whatever it is, just make a plan for how you're going to deal with interruptions, because they will happen. Let's talk about scope creep a little bit. This is a form of interruption in that it was not originally scheduled when the engagement was agreed upon with your client. Are your clients working with staff and they're asking you for things that are out of scope of the original engagement? Or do your staff know the exact boundaries of the engagement? Do your clients know the proper procedure for requesting additional services? If the work is outside of the scope of a fixed fee engagement, can new work requests be marked as billable so that those charges are submitted to the client for payment? These are the types of things to think about when you're planning your workflow management system so that you and your staff can manage your work effectively and especially plan for scope creep. Let's jump back in New Aero and look at this. I'm going to go back to the work we were just performing, this payroll task. So you're working on payroll, you're checking off your steps, and your client calls you, unscheduled, and you need to take it. I can come to my timer and I can pause, right? So now I've stopped this one. Then I can quickly come over here and start from the quick links. I can start a new, remember this call you didn't know about beforehand, it wasn't over on your Aero list, it wasn't scheduled. So you come to quick links and you start a new one. You're given several fields here. The only one you really have to fill out is this one with the red star, the subject line. You could just go on and start it here. I might fill in a couple more. Maybe I pick the company name. You can come back and do that later. You could just put in a little note about who called you and start right away. So from the quick links menu, I picked start. Any of these that say start, these are going to start your timer right away. So now I'm immediately charging time. I'm talking to my client. I'm taking notes about what we're talking about so that I can remember and my staff can see what we talked about if they look at the arrows associated to this client. We have a great phone call. I've got notes. While I'm on the phone with her, I may have information that I need to look up. It's all right here. I've got all their information while I'm talking to this client. So when I'm finished, I save and complete. That task is gone. I'm going to close that tab. I'm right back to where I was working before. And I'm going to come over here and restart my timer. So that's an example of having a system in place for how you're going to handle interruptions. Those tasks in the quick links menu that you saw me start, these with the word start, they're designated as type unscheduled. It's gives you the ability to later, after the fact, go and track all of the unscheduled work you do. As you organize the client fulfillment or service delivery aspects of your firm, keep in mind some components of practice management. You'll need a tool for managing your resources, your staff, your processes, your intellectual capital. Intellectual capital is, this is your documented procedures. This is how you state officially, this is how we do things here in our firm. This is how we do payroll for clients. This is how we do bank recs. This is how we do our services. That's your intellectual capital. You need to manage all this, manage your staff, manage your processes. Even if you don't pay staff hourly, Or if you don't invoice clients hourly, tracking time allows you to manage the calendar so that you can schedule work appropriately. You want to set up a system for monitoring your profit on fixed fee work. You want to determine the key performance indicators for your firm and track them and watch them. For example, can you easily measure the actual time it takes to perform a service versus the estimated time? Or better yet, can you tell the average actual time it takes to perform a service over the course of many instances, and then use this to improve your resource planning on the next engagement? So I want to thank you all for joining us today and being here to see this high-level overview of the importance of managing your workflow in an accounting firm. Also to see this overview of what the new Aero looks like. Aero Workflow is available on Method CRM and also on this new version you saw some glimpses of today. Our website has a list of upcoming webinars where we'll be diving into new Aero. So here I have up for you the pricing page. You can find this on our website. This will show you the packages we have available based on the size of your firm. And you get a month free trial. And we've got Victoria and Sarah here answering questions in our chat room. So they are going to paste the sign-up link into the chat window for anyone who wants to start a new Aero account today. And there's also an invitation code that you'll need. So we'll post that into the chat